Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. In a tweet that PearlyThings posted, she was saying how society would function fine without women. And I find this to be a very damaging way to speak to women, a very depressing way, a very hateful way to speak to women. It really attacks the mind of human beings in general to tell them that they are so useless, so unnecessary, so unvaluable, that if they just poof disappeared, everything would actually be better, and that with them being present in the society, things become worse. I want you to think of a shaitan sitting across from you, whispering this into your head over and over and over as a woman. And ask yourself, would you feel healthier? Would you feel more loved? Would you feel like you are motivated to guard your daughters, your sons? Would you feel energized to shower love upon your husband when he comes home? Would you be in the mood for intimacy? Would you have any self-worth, self-esteem at all? Okay. Now, if you want to motivate women to choose mom life, you have to inspire them. I worked while pregnant in the restaurant industry, and now with this second child, I got to stay home the entire time, and I've become a stay-at-home mom, and I helped my grandfather clean carpets from like 8-9 years old. I've always had at least 2 or 3 jobs. I'm a hard worker. I value that. And I was never told anything my entire life about being a stay-at-home mom. Never really talked about the importance of marriage. It just doesn't come up, so you don't think about it. And colleges come in when you're in high school and they try to recruit you. And life just pans out in a different way for so many women that they often think, well, if I want to stay home, I'll do it after college, after my bachelor's or something. And some women also find out they're infertile. Some get their heart broken so badly that they become nihilistic and cynical about men in general. And that type of healing takes time for some women, and others, they just check out. This is very common with women who just went through at least 2, 3, 4 breakups, and they're like, you know what, I'm done, I give up. So when their heart is wounded and they're focusing on money, you're not gonna help them want children by saying, you know, you're so useless in this realm, in this earth, and your life has no meaning, and you don't belong in society. This is a very evil thing to tell women. And it's not something motivational. And I don't think society would be better without women. Because let's say you had 2 children, they both pass away from disease, from accidents, you name it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested so many women with having to bury their own children. And it might be past the time where you can conceive again. Now you have to find a way to carry on. You have to find a way to feel you have meaning anymore, so that you don't delete yourself, so that you don't consume yourself in the tequila bottle, so that you don't bury yourself in Adderall and Percocet. Why do so many women choose drugs? Because they feel like their life has no meaning. So when someone like Pearl is telling women on Twitter, society would function fine without you, is that gonna help an addict feel like they have a purpose in this world? Is that gonna make a woman say, well, I guess I should get pregnant now? Now, I want you to also think further. There are tons of women who, if anything happened to their husband, may Allah preserve their husbands, if he got a broken leg, was not able to get workman's comp, or, he's an illegal immigrant in a country, he can't get health care, he gets cancer, something happens, and she's not able to remarry quickly, she's going to have to go to work. Okay, not everyone I don't have that. I can't tell my dad, hey, I'm about to be homeless, come help me. I lived on my own since 17. No one cares. No one in my family would care. It's just not how they are. It's that they're just not that kind of supportive family. I mean, look how in America, young people are told at 18 you can move out. I just want you to think about that. Whereas in Latino families, you notice they stick around a lot longer. Okay? And a lot of children run away. I ran away. I tried to run away once when I was really young, and then I ran away twice when I was a teenager. And so when you don't have a blanket to protect you, a family unit, you have to go to work. And when I went to work, I did my job well. I had excellent female bosses. They were hard on me. I disagreed with some things they did, but they taught me a lot. And when I was trying to live on my own, moving out of the hood, I had a Greek boss. She was about 70 years old, and she gave me money, my paycheck, early so that I could pay a down payment on renting a room in the hood. I told her I'm leaving my abusive relationship where basically the guy, you guys know the story, didn't have any access to the internet. He wouldn't let me talk on the phone, wouldn't leave me with a phone, wouldn't let me even have an Xbox. I had just total deprivation, right? And I had no money, no car, just nothing at all. Just stuck, literally stuck with him with no way out. And so when I finally figured out how to escape, basically the way I look at it, because his mom was an occultist and it was a very unhealthy living situation, I held on for as much as I could, but my sanity started to slip away to the point where I tried to eliminate myself. And I realized I had to get out of there. And she gave me the money to give to the woman I would be renting from, a Peruvian family. And I appreciate them because I had a pit bull puppy. I had 2 pit bulls. One I had to leave behind because he was just too big. He was an adult. But I had a puppy, a blue-nosed pit bull named Octavius, and they let me keep him in the room with me. I had no mattress. I slept on the floor with my pit bull puppy. I had a couple books. I still have some pictures of those, And I just had nothing. I just had to leave with a bag and very few things. I had no money, really. And I had just started working that job, and I didn't have that much, and there was a time where he didn't let me work for a while and then would, and then he became very jealous of me working in certain restaurants because he didn't want me being around men, apparently. Guess he thought someone would steal me away. And he had a drinking problem, so that was, when we would drink, he'd get violent. The drinking became progressively worse. But when I would go to work, it made me feel like I'm doing something right in my life. Showing up on time. Doing everything I can to keep the job. Right? And earning tips, saving, all that. I was needed by my boss. I was needed by my coworkers. And I was needed by the customers. I had a purpose. Maybe it wasn't as valuable as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but it was still something. And in that very depressive moment, I needed that feeling of purpose to keep me going. Now, Pearl said she doesn't support divorce, and I wasn't married to him, but if I would have been married, Pearl would have just mocked at me and said I had to endure. And she has said women have to accept adultery, and she has supported things. She said porn is good for men. I've listed screenshots, done videos. These are things she's very open about, that she's spoken on her own show and multiple podcasts. So this is nothing new if you know Pearl's content. And so Pearl telling women that society would function fine without you is so psychologically disturbing that it really makes you sick. Really makes you sick. Men help the infrastructure and work very hard, laborious jobs. But I liked when I had both male and female doctors for both my children. I don't know why they have certain shifts or whatever, but there was a female nurses who were just mothers. They had lots of years of experience working in the labor and delivery, and I found that to be very comforting. Very comforting. Now, in other tweets, PearlyThings has complained about nurses. She's complained about women being in healthcare, and I disagree with this because those female nurses really helped me psychologically. I mean, I think if women are very honest, when you have just given birth, I mean, you are bleeding, you're just like, oh. Now, some women have home births and they have very peaceful situations, but not every woman's birthing situation is the same. So, a man in that moment, who's your husband or your father or your grandfather, can really help you. True. But sometimes you don't have a woman there to support you. I didn't have that. So who did I have? I had the female nurses. And there were some really good ones, and then there was just some really loving, like there was a southern woman there. Tons of Vietnamese, Filipino, and Chinese women who worked in that hospital. And man, they made me feel safe. I had a very hard time sleeping in the hospital away from my daughter. The first nights they let her stay, and then they had a kid policy. You can only be there during visiting hours. So I had to be in the hospital by myself with the baby, and that was excruciating, you know. And the nurses coming in, checking, they do every 2 hours. How are you? Check your vitals. Like, just that feminine contact was helpful. There was even a butch lesbian who was there. I didn't really like her very much because she didn't have the right energy. And then there was also a gay guy who was there, but wasn't the same. But either way, they had their utility and professionalism, right? Which is very important. They were professional, and you need professional people in a hospital. If that hospital would have been all men, I mean, that would be very awkward. Very awkward, you know. I had women who performed my C-section. You know, they were my doctors. One of the women checked on me periodically in my pregnancy, and then the woman who performed my C-section, she knew me the whole pregnancy, and that was very relieving in a way because I recognized her face. And when the bright lights of a C-section are burning down on you, and you're afraid, and I'm saying la ilaha illallah over and over, and anything could go wrong, something horrible could happen, just never, earthquake, you don't know, right? You're vulnerable in the hands of these surgeons. You and your baby, you're numbed, you can't walk, you know, I'm throwing up. A lot of women throw up on the table with their C-section because of all the pain meds. Threw up on my hijab, and the women there talking to me, there was a male anesthesiologist who I told him I can't listen to music, but can you put on Sounds of the Rain in the operating room? And they did that. Very kind. It was just a great thing. A great thing. And for Pearl to say that women could just disappear from society, that means all those women who helped me in a very vulnerable moment are gone. And my grandma recently, she's always in the hospital now. She's not doing too well with her health. But it's nice seeing just like a nurse know what to do. A male nurse, it's just not the same. You know, it's just not the same. And I feel comforted knowing that there's a, you know, good person there tending to my grandma who has dementia now, you know. And I respect the hell out of male and female doctors. It's a tough job. But for Pearl to just say like, oh, women don't matter at all, she claims she's not diminishing women. This is just empirically not true by her own statements. I also think about all the female bakers. I like seeing, especially in the culinary world, you see awesome male chefs. But you also see some wonderful female bakers who, some of them are on the chubby side, and even the liberal bakers who have like nose rings and weird hair, they have a deep passion for cooking. You see all kinds of personalities in the culinary world, and the culinary world is beautiful, and men and women contribute to it. A lot of these women who make fantastic like cake recipes, or they have there's the show called Pasta Grannies. Like some of these women who are making traditional pasta, and they're teaching both male chefs and female chefs how to do it. And they earn a little money from it in their tiny little Italian village. You're just like, wow, like that's amazing. It's just beautiful how we're all sharing our knowledge. Knowledge exists in both men and women, and none of us can encompass any of Allah's knowledge except as He permits. So our deeds are what matter. And in society, a woman who has decided she's not going to have children, or she just can't have children, or she lost her children, her husband's died, and she doesn't want to remarry, she still has to find her purpose to keep going. So when Pearl is telling women flat out, period, society would run better without you, would run fine without you, this is like a dark shadow that just removes all the beauty women contribute to society. It's quite cynical to imagine that all the world would be better if it was just only men in every single position. That is quite bleak. Quite bleak. And harmful to the human psyche and how men view women. I just can't imagine telling a child, a girl, society would function fine without you. As a mother, we all make mistakes when we get angry or when we're too soft on something. You're always learning something as a mom. But if a mom told their daughter, society's fine without you, you don't matter. You're just only for a man's reproduction. That takes all the sensuality, the romance, the spiritualness out of connecting each other's bodies to try to create a life. If you even look in cinema, where a woman is framed as just trying to give birth to a male heir, it doesn't feel right. It feels wrong when the girls are attacked. The pagans, right? Burying their girl daughters. In China, when they had the one-child policy, everybody wanted boys and little girls were cast aside. I mean, that's just heartbreaking. And when you see feminists say, if it's a boy, abort it, you're like, no, this isn't healthy. This is not good. There's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam and Eve. He created them, and He took the woman from him, from Adam. There's a piece of man and woman. Spiritually, when they come together in their union to create life, it's a beautiful, miraculous event. And for women who have to work on their farms, who tend to horses, who are veterinarians, who are dentist technicians, who are artists, who make beautiful vases for flowers or construct water fountains, even the women who post pictures of flower on Instagram, help me have a better day. Women make the world beautified. They make it so unique and special. And men are valuable too, with the hard, backbreaking labor of raising skyscrapers, laying pipes, building bridges. You know, when those two energies come together, the combination is fantastic. To remove one would be an imbalance. It wouldn't be the same. And for Pearl to shit on women to try to get men's approval is abusive to her own self. She dishonors womanhood. She dishonors motherhood. She dishonors the meaning of what it means to be a wife. And she is very unaware of how her hate towards women for the approval of a very niche group of men is not going to be healthy for her in the long run. If she looks in the mirror and tells herself society would be better without me because I'm a woman, I would tell her that you need psychological help. I would say that you're lacking in spirituality. All the prophets had to come from women, and their mothers must have been good. They suffered the pains of childbirth, nursing, changing the poopy diapers, tending to them when they had a fever, guarding them so they didn't eat something they could choke on. I mean, they were there. They were there, showering their babies with hugs and kisses and playing and laughing and giggling and protecting their children with their life, while the wonderful husband went out and got provision and he came home to his beautiful child being tended to. That uniqueness is wonderful. But I will never blame a woman who says, there's not enough jobs in my area. I know a very good nanny, and she's safe, and I need to go earn. When my mom had me, my dad didn't really help her, so she had to give me up to a nanny for a while, and she went out trying to earn so we could get ahead, because no one in the family helped her. And because of good nannies, I was able to kind of survive. You know, my first nanny that my grandma used to let me play with, she had a daughter who was 1 year older than me. I'm still friends with her today. They were a Mormon family, and I loved them with all my heart. And she was a nanny for all the kids in the neighborhood. She had a home-based daycare. And we were safe. We were loved. We were looked after. She was a good Mormon Christian woman who made homemade food. She had the love like the kind of Ronald Weasley's mom in Harry Potter, that kind of loving energy. It was beautiful. But when all her kids grew up, she worked part-time. I forget where, but even she had a little side hustle that she did. So I don't blame some women for working. If you look at women in Indonesia in these garment industries, they face immense poverty and the men are not able to provide. It's quite sad. They're emasculated because they cannot earn enough to survive. And so the women, I even saw videos of some women in India, they have their baby right there in the factory. It's amazing. I'm like, how is that allowed? But at least she gets to spend time with her kid. And she was making garments in these factories. It's a brutal existence. Thank Allah I don't have to do that. But we have to have mercy and balance when we say society would function fine without women. Are men going to work in the seamstress factories? I mean, during World War II, women were stitching the uniforms. Women were washing the bloody soldier uniforms, repurposing them for the military. Female nurses helped soldiers recover. Okay? We cannot simply say that there is no place for women in society by saying it would be better without them and that their presence makes it harder and worse. This is not a healthy way to live. It's not a healthy way to live. And when I post that tweet here on the channel and on the blog, I'll try to give some other points I thought of. But it's very important for women like myself, who are American revert Muslims, who come from the classic Americana background, and also part of those who have suffered the underbelly of the American culture and who have reformed due to Islam and learned a more nuanced, balanced perspective, that we share our insights. And so I will not stop talking about Pearly Things until she gives me no more things to talk about, right? And to me, she's spreading things that are detrimental to the psyche of women. And it makes disgruntled, unmarried, childless men who are porn addicted and lonely hate women more. And so Pearl doing things for the sake of money is, in my opinion, needs to be corrected. Because a woman saying things that hurt women is suspect. If a man started saying things that were very anti-male, I'd be very suspect too. I'd be like, what's wrong with you? What's going on with you? Are you okay? So when I hear a woman say some of the most evil things, such as what Pearl does, and she teeter-totters between, I'm a traditional woman, but I dip and dab out of Catholicism. Oh, I was going to convert to Islam, but then I didn't. It's like, what are you doing? Who are you fooling here? Because a lot of people have short memories. A lot of people have TikTok brains. But even me, who has ADHD and ADD, I'm still able to pay attention to what you're talking about, Pearl. You know, obviously I don't like her, so I'm going to follow what she says. And I'm going to remember what she says so I can argue against it effectively, so that no one can say I'm strawmanning or red herring or whatever. But no, these are her words. Now, if she recants those words, cool. But she hasn't. And she still states those opinions. And I have a right to argue with those opinions. Especially so because she can't block me here. If I was to comment a lot of these things on Twitter, she said she would block people. And if you block trolls, cool. But if there's a genuine disagreement and it's civil, I think that by all means you should reply. But I spend a lot of time replying to people, so I gotta tone that down and just reply to those who have like more sane responses. But I guess she can't take a lot of time to do that. She's a career woman. She's running a company, and she has no kids, and she's not married, and she's college educated, so she's a career-driven woman pushing 27. So I get that she doesn't have that much time when you're a boss, right? So it's very important that we talk to our daughters and our sons, because Pearl has heavy influence in the red pill manosphere, and young teen boys are listening to this rhetoric, and young girls as well, in this digital age of smartphones. So important that we have these conversations. Let me know what you think. By the way, if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/melanarchive. Hope to see you there.